Nausicaa, page 129. This is Nausicaa's mother, Arete, asking her a question about the person she has met, Ulysses. Who is this man? What's his name? They came to another island where the sun and moon chase each other around the sky, and day flashes on like a lamp when you pass your hand over it. But you know who lived there? Giant cannibals, tall as trees, and they killed most of his men and cooked them in a big pot and broke two of his ships, and he had only one left. I asked you his name. I don't know. He didn't tell me. It's a secret or something. Do you believe everything he tells you? Oh, yes. He's not exactly handsome, but very strong looking, you know. Too old, though, much too old, and married, of course, but I don't think he gets along with his wife. You can see he has suffered. You can see by his eyes. Where is he now? In the guest house. Don't you think we should have a banquet for him tonight? He's a distinguished visitor, isn't he? All those things he did. We don't quite know what he is, do we, dear? I think I had better meet him myself first. Your father's in a funny mood. Met with the oracle today, and something went wrong, I think. Yes, yes, I want you to meet him before father does. I want to know what you think. Shall I fetch him? I'll send a servant, child. You are not to see him again until I find out more about him. Do you understand? Oh, yes. Find out, find out. Tell me everything he says. Queen Arete spoke with Ulysses, and then went to her husband, the king, and told him of their visitor. She was amazed to see his face grow black with rage. "By the gods!" he cried, "these are foul tidings you bring. Only today the oracle warned against strangers, shipwrecks, and storytellers, and now you tell me our daughter has picked up some nameless ruffian who combines all three: stranger, shipwreck, and a storyteller. A shipwrecked stranger telling wild tales. Precisely what is needed to draw upon us the wrath of the sea god, Poseidon. I shall sacrifice him to Poseidon. There will be an end to it." "You may not do that," said Arete. "Who says may not? To me. I am king." "Exactly why you may not. Because you are king. The man comes to you as a supplicant. Look that up. Write it in the margin. He is under your protection. If you harm him, you will bring down upon yourself the wrath of all the gods, not just one. This is a law of hospitality. So over here in the margin, in ancient Greece, there was a law of hospitality where you had to treat your visitor, take them in, and treat them kindly. So the king ordered a great banquet that night to honor his guest. But certain young men of the court, who were skilled at reading the king's moods, knew that he was displeased, and decided to advance themselves in his favor by killing the stranger and making it seem an accident. So people who wanted to get on the good side of the king, you could write that over here, said they would kill Ulysses. "We will have games in the courtyard," said Euryalus, their leader. "We will hurl discus and javelin, shoot with the bow, wrestle, and challenge him to take part. And when he does, it may be that some unlucky throw of javelin or misshot arrow will rid us of his company. Or perchance, or perchance means perhaps, if he wrestles, he will find his neck being broken. It looks to be a thick neck, but he has been long at sea and is unused to such exercises." So the young men began to hold their contests in the courtyard. When Ulysses stopped to watch them, Euryalus stepped forth and said, "There is good sport here, stranger, if you care to play." "No, thank you," said Ulysses. "I'll just watch." "Yes, of course," said Euryalus. "These games are somewhat dangerous, and one can see that you are a man of prudence, of care and concern. caution. You could write that in the margin. But then, of course, you are rather old for such sports, aren't you? So Euryalus is egging him on, trying to get him to convince him to join by telling him he's old. He laughed sneeringly, picked up the heavy discus, whirled and threw. It sailed through the air and landed with a clatter far away. All the young men laughed and cheered. "Where I come from," said Ulysses, "such little discs are given babies to teethe on. The grown men need a bit more to test them." He strode over to a battle chariot and broke off one of its wheels at the axle. It was a very heavy wheel, of oak bound with brass. He hefted it and said, "A little light, but it will do." So he's using the wheel of a chariot instead of a discus, and he's using it as a discus. For he was filled with the wild rage that makes a man 10 times stronger than he really is. He cradled the great wheel, whirled and threw. It flew through the air far past where the discus had landed and thudded against the inner wall of the courtyard, knocking a hole in it. He turned to the others, who were paralyzed with amazement. "Poor throw," he said. "But then, as you say, I'm rather old for such sport. However, since we are gathered here in this friendly fashion, let us play more games. If any of you would like to try me with sword or spear or dagger or even a simple cudgel, let him step forth. Or, perhaps, there is one who would prefer to wrestle. So look up cudgel, write it in the margin." "That was well thrown, stranger," said Euryalus. "What is your name?" "I do not choose to tell you my name, O athlete." "You are not courteous." "If you care to teach me manners, young sir, I offer again, sword, spear, cudgel, any weapon you choose, or no weapon at all, except our hands." "We are civilized here in Phaeacia," said Euryalus. "We do not fight with our guests, but I cannot understand why you refuse to tell us your name." "A god hunts me. If I say my name, it may attract his notice." The young men nodded, for this is what was believed at that time. But Euryalus ran to tell the king. "I knew it," said Alcinous. "He carries a curse. He is the very man the oracle warned me against. I must get rid of him, but the law of hospitality forbids me to kill him under my roof. So tonight we entertain him at a banquet. But tomorrow he leaves this castle, and we shall find a way to see that he does not return." "He is no weakling, this old sailor," said Euryalus. "He throws the discus almost as well as I." Now, all this time Nausicaa had been thinking about the stranger and weaving a plan, for she was determined to find out who he was. She visited the old bard who had taught her to play the lyre. A bard must be a teacher, but look it up, put it in the margin. And so she visited the old bard who had taught her to play the lyre, and whose task it was to sing for the guests at the royal feast. She spoke and laughed with the old man and fed him undiluted wine. So she got the lyre teacher drunk until he lost his wits. Then she locked him in the stable, where he fell fast asleep on a bundle of straw, and she departed with his lyre. Page 134. At the banquet that night, when the king called for the bard to sing his tales, Nausicaa said, "The old man is ill and cannot come. However, if you permit, I shall sing for your guests." The king frowned, but Ulysses said, "This illness is a blessing, king. I think I should rather hear your black-haired daughter sing than the best bard who ever plucked a lyre." The king nodded. Nausicaa smiled and began to sing. She sang a tale of heroes, of those who fought at Troy. She sang of fierce Achilles and mighty Ajax, of Menelaus and his shattering war cry, of brave Diomedes, who fought with Ares himself when the war god came in his brazen chariot to help the Trojans. She watched Ulysses narrowly as she sang. She saw his face soften and his eyes grow dreamy, and she knew that he had been there and that she was singing of his companions, but she still did not know his name. Then she began to sing of that master of strategy, the great trickster, Ulysses. She sang of the wooden horse and how the warriors hid inside while the Trojans debated outside, deciding what to do. Some of them wanted to chop it to pieces, others wished to take it to a cliff and push it off. Still others wanted to bring it within the city as an offering to the gods, which of course was what Ulysses wanted them to do. She told of the men hiding in the belly of the horse, listening to their fate being debated, and of the fierce joy that flamed in their hearts when they heard the Trojans decide to drag the horse within the walls, and of how in the blackness of the night they came out of the horse, and how Ulysses led the charge. She sang of him fighting there by the light of the burning houses, knee-deep in blood, and how he was invincible that night and carried everything before him. And as she sang, she kept watching the stranger's face. She saw tears steal from beneath his clenched eyelids and roll down his cheeks. Amazed, the banqueters saw this hard-bitten sailor put his head in his hands and sob like a child. He raised his streaming face and said, "Forgive me, gracious king, but the wonderful voice of your daughter has touched my heart. For you must know that I am none other than Ulysses, of whom she sings." A great uproar broke out. The young men cheered. The women wept. The king said, "My court is honored, Ulysses. Your deeds are known wherever men love courage. Now that I know who you are, I put all my power and goods at your disposal. Name any favor you wish, and it shall be yours." Ulysses said, "O king, if I were the age I was 20 years ago when the ships were launched at Aulis, then the favor I would ask is your daughter's hand, for surely I have traveled the whole world over without seeing her like. I knew Helen, whose beauty kindled men to that terrible, terrible war. I knew the beauties of the Trojan court whom we took captive and shared among us. And during my wanderings I have had close acquaintance with certain enchantresses whose charms are more than human, namely Circe and Calypso. Yet never have I seen a girl so lovely, so witty, so courteous and kind as your young daughter. Alas, it cannot be. I am too old. I have a wife I must return to, and a kingdom, and there are sore trials I must undergo before I can win again what belongs to me. So all I ask of you, great king, is a ship to take me to Ithaca, where my wife waits, my enemies wait, my destiny waits." Arete whispered to the king, "Yes, yes, give him his ship tomorrow. I wish it could be tonight. See how your daughter looks at him. She is smitten to the heart. She is sick with love. Let him sail tomorrow, and be sure to keep watch at the wharf, lest she stow away." "It shall be as you say, mighty Ulysses," said the king. "Your ship will sail tomorrow." So Ulysses departed the next day on a splendid ship manned by a picked crew, laden with rich goods the king had given him as hero gifts. It is said that Athena drugged Poseidon's cup at the feast of the gods that night, so that he slept a heavy sleep and did not see that Ulysses was being borne to Ithaca. What this means, underline this means he did not see that Ulysses was headed towards Ithaca. But Poseidon awoke in time to see the ship sailing back and understood what had happened. In a rage, he snatched Athena's Gorgon head shield, the sight of which turns men to stone, and flashed it before the ship just as it was coming into port after having left Ulysses at his island. The ship and all its crew turned to stone, blocking the harbor as the oracle had foretold. It is said, too, that Nausicaa never accepted any of the young men who came a-wooing, announcing that she was wedded to song. She became the first woman bard, and traveled all the courts of the world singing her song of the heroes who fought at Troy, but especially of Ulysses and of his adventures among the terrible islands of the Middle Sea. Some say that she finally came to the court of Ithaca to sing her song, and there she stayed. Others